Hello, hello. How are you?
Good. Great.
Good. Happy to hear that. So we're talking about the evolving business model. That's what we're here to talk about. I'm going to talk about kind of the journey from a services model to a software model, which some of you heard as Team 3-1 today. We were talking about that earlier. Before I do that, though, seriously, thanks to Catalyst Creative and to Creative Niche for doing this, for bringing us in. This has been really quite an eye-opening day so far. I'm very much looking forward to tomorrow. So I'm going to tell you 3 stories tonight. The first story is going to be the evolution of my previous business, Bulk TV and Internet, into American Support. Let's kind of talk about how that happened and that business model, or the business models associated with that. And then I'm going to talk about my partner in Live Answers business, his previous business, which was Rush My Passport. And I'm going to bring it all together here with the evolving into a services business or software business model, talking about Uber, Airbnb, and then Live Answer and how that all kind of fits together. Make sense? Everybody following along? All right. I'm not here to tell you that a software model is better than a services model. It's just different. And I'm going to talk from really my experience and what I've seen as the differences in those 2 models. So hopefully that'll be helpful. I'm going to start with Bulk TV and Internet. I've done 6 different startups. This was a cable company selling bulk television products to multi-dwelling units, hotels, assisted livings, condominiums. And selling a bulk product involves some support, involves some sales. It turns out that if you sell something to a hotel and a channel goes out in the middle of the night, they want to be able to call you and talk to you and say, hey, I'm missing ESPN. Guests are not so happy. As a small company, as a startup, in the beginning you take turns, you figure out who's going to answer the phones when that happens, but it's not really a great way to provide technical support for your customers. Same thing happened with sales, but let me stick on the technical support here for a moment. So what do you do? Well, we called a bunch of call centers and said, hey, we're getting like 8 calls a month in the middle of the night, and we really need some help answering this. You guys want to take that business on? No, we do not. There's nothing good about that for us. So call centers weren't an option. So then we started saying, well, maybe we can call answering services, and they were happy to take the business. 8 calls a month, 10 calls a month, in the middle of the night, we're happy to take it. The problem was they were old school. Everything about working with an answering service is old school, from how they contract with you, how they get your scripts. If you want to make a change, you would actually have to call somebody, and then they might make a change the next day or the day after. Any of you work with answering services, have that experience? You know what I'm talking about? It's hard. It's not a great business model, but we didn't have a choice. So we made it work with the answering services. It was just painful. I started talking to other cable companies, and they said there's got to be a better way. There wasn't a market, so I thought, well, I can just build a call center business. So why not? So I sold my interest in Bulk TV to my brother-in-law. They're still running it, still a great company. If you have a hotel, give them a call. But it started American Support. And when we started, we were tiny. We were like 7 agents. And what we found out is the agents there'd be periods of time where they were ready to take a call, but nobody was calling. So it was a very expensive way to run a call business. So I was learning about that, but we were making it work, and we were doing all the things that you do as an entrepreneur and keeping it going. And eventually we started getting more work. We said, you know what we'll do? We'll expand our labor pool by going to the Philippines. And we will add some more talent over there to keep our costs down. The only thing wrong with that was our math was bad. We didn't understand all the expenses that occur when you try to do business offshore. There were a lot of surprises that we uncovered. And our customers didn't really like it. We had some language challenges, some word misunderstandings, and it just didn't work out well for us. But we saved the business. We ended up doing a whole ad campaign on no offshore call centers, brought them back on shore, started growing our business again. So this is kind of cool. And eventually we've grown to where we have now 600 employees in 18 states and call centers in Florida. And we're making it work. We have these marquee clients, and it's kind of cool, kind of. It's a hard business model, and there's really a few major challenges with the business model that we have. Challenge number 1 is that we don't have a lot of clients, so we have what's called revenue concentration. So that means when you go to the bank or you go to somebody to buy you, they're going to say, well, what if one of your major clients leaves you? It's not a great conversation. It keeps your multiples down, and it's hard to get financing when you have few clients. When you have a few clients, they know they have you, and they can push on your margin, and they do from time to time. There's also, when you go after marquee clients, there's a lot of people who want that business and don't understand necessarily the economics or haven't put what you've put into it. So there's always people trying to take that business, but your margin is constantly being squeezed. And then with 600 people, and we're in the call center space relatively small, there's just labor challenges. There's just stuff that happens. There's and especially in 18 states, we have different laws and just things that happen with that particular population. So it's just a hard business to run. And it requires a lot of volume to make any money at doing this. So again, I'm thankful for the business. I like running the business. I'm just saying as a business model, which is what we're here to talk about, it's a tough business. Making sense? Mm-hmm. All right, look at this. I'm going to switch over to my partner. My partner, Adam, this is in my live answer business. His previous company was Rush My Passport. How does he get into the passport business? Well, he's actually just a digital marketing guy. He does all sorts of online marketing for a lot of big brands. And he likes the unsexy markets. He likes kind of the opportunity markets, things that people aren't looking at. And he realized in doing some of his analysis that the passport industry, they were really bad at advertising. So he thought, all right, I don't know anything about the passport space, but I know I can advertise better than them. So he created a passport expediting company. And it grew very quickly to be the #1 passport expediter in America. And so what's so cool is it's like what we all want, right? The marketing's working. He's getting hundreds of calls a week. This is cool. Money's coming in. The problem he had is he had these weird concentrations, like from 11:30 to 1:30, and Mondays and Tuesdays are going to be really big, and Wednesdays are not, and Thursdays are, and Fridays aren't. Very, very complicated call arrivals, and he also didn't know what was going to happen next. Was this a fluke? Was the marketing working, but he didn't know for how long it was going to work? So he didn't really know if he could guarantee anything. Call centers wanted guarantees. What is going to be your arrival pattern? How much are you willing to guarantee me? Are you going to give me dedicated agents? They wanted very specific information that as entrepreneurs, it's really hard for us to give. And this is true whether we're selling something or supporting something. We just don't know because our businesses are changing too much as we're growing them. So he got to deal with the old school answering services. It was painful, but he was able to do where basically a call would come in, an answering service would sift through whether it qualify the lead. Ooh, this person's leaving like tomorrow or the next day. I better move them to the A team. These people have time. I can kind of take them through a normal process. So he made it work, but it wasn't a great experience. For him, he was able to exit in 2013. He had a successful exit. Life was good. He started sitting around saying, well, what am I going to do next? And he started thinking about what problems did he have in all of his businesses prior to having a good exit. He realized that his biggest challenge was phone support. With every business, answering the phones, whether it's for sales or for support, was a problem he was having. And he talked to other entrepreneurs like, yeah, it is hard. There's not an easy way to do it. We need something that is, we can't afford what a call center offers. And an answering service is just not going to cut it. We need something more sophisticated. So, and also the entrepreneur wants to be in control. We all care about our brands. We care about how people, what they say matters. We want to be in control. So he said, cool, I think that's all interesting, but I don't know anything about running a call center. I don't really want to run a call center. Which then brings me to our third story. He started looking around saying, well, what do I do? How do I solve this? And he started looking at things like Uber and Airbnb. So what did Uber do? The old model would be to go get a lot of taxis and drivers and maybe do it better than the taxis did it. But that's a services model, and they weren't really interested in that. They thought if we can build an app and connect consumers to unoccupied or black cars that weren't being utilized, we could fill those cars up, make those drivers happy, and give the consumers a better experience. And we can build the technology around it, so it's a technology play using a service, but not a service play. All right, that's interesting. Airbnb. Hotels have been around. We could go and get cooler hotels or do something different in boutique hotels, or we can take empty rooms and connect those to consumers who want those rooms and bring it at a different price. And again, just build the technology around it. So provide a service using a software, but don't control the service itself. So what's the call center equivalent? I go back to story number 1 and those agents who weren't answering the phones as often as they could be. Well, it turns out if you look at the call center space across the country, like 80% of the time they're answering phones, and 20% is what's called unoccupied time. It's time that they're able to answer the phone, but they're not. There's 3 million call center agents in the United States, working about 80% of the time. What does that mean? Like 81 million unused hours. What does that mean? More than 1 billion calls could be answered if you could really capture all of that each month without hiring any more people. So what do you need? You need to connect the dots. You need to connect the dots between all these unoccupied agents, or some fraction of these unoccupied agents, and the consumers who want, or the entrepreneurs who want a better experience. And what do entrepreneurs want? They want their calls answered by great agents, and they want to do it themselves as they need it. Self-service, they want to be able to say, this is how I want my business answered, and if I wake up and I take a shower and I change my mind, I want to be able to change it in the very next call. I want it to do it like that. And if I want to connect with Salesforce or Zendesk or some type of webhooks, I just want to hit a button and have it done. I don't want to call anybody. I just want to do it. This should be easy. So we built all that. Oh, and I also want like Fortune 500 quality of agents. Well, if you connect the unoccupied time of the agents who are taking the calls for the Fortune 500, it's not like Fortune 500 agents. It's the same agents. So you can give them all of that by tapping into that unoccupied space. And really celebrate. As entrepreneurs, it's okay. We're not going to know what the call arrivals are. We're not going to know which marketing piece is going to work. But if it works, we don't want to miss those calls. And we don't know that that marketing piece is going to work week after week, and that's okay too. So it's okay not to know everything. It's not okay to let the calls go unanswered. So the advantages with the software model versus the services model. We have lots of clients, so there's no revenue concentration. So it's easier to raise money around that type of business model. The margins are better than the services model. You're just dealing with the technology and you're taking your piece. You're not trying to accommodate for the fluctuations of labor that happens in the services model. You don't have the labor challenges as you would if you controlled all of those different people yourself, or all of the taxi drivers, or all of the hotels, to go back to Airbnb and Uber. And then you have the ability to pivot. You're a software company. So I'm going after this direction. Maybe I want to go after a specific niche, or maybe I want to sell the software and license it differently. You have more options because you haven't invested in a bunch of infrastructure and a bunch of people, and you have that type of momentum going that you can't get off that train. So you're more flexible. And then every customer is profitable when you're software. It's just about getting to scale. And we heard today about why do VCs like these technology places? You can scale quickly. We don't have to add buildings. We don't have to add infrastructure. We don't have to hire a bunch of people. We can just scale with the software model. So again, we're like a year old in the live answer side. We've had about 1,000 businesses sign up in the first year. About $100,000 a month. It's not a big business yet, but it's going, it's growing, and you can see the trajectory, and it's pretty mappable, and it's pretty predictable, and you advertise this much, and this is the cost of acquisition, and you get these sales, and you make this money. Again, it's not better than a services model, and certainly Zappos would argue that a services model is a fantastic model for what they do, and I don't think anyone would argue. It's just a different model. And as we're talking about the evolution, and I know talking to a bunch of you over the last few days, talking about the evolution of a business model, just maybe another way to think about what do you want to do next, and what do you want to do with your business, and is there unused capacity in whatever you're thinking about that you can tap into and help scale your business quicker. So hopefully this was helpful and on the evolution of business models. Thank you so much.